She was already screaming when I shut the gas valve. "Turn it back on!" Karen yelled, phone in the air. This line serves the whole street. "You can't cut it!" I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "That line is mine." She laughed like I was joking, then dialed 911 and told them I was stealing community gas. Neighbors came out, whispering. She slapped a bright HOA paper on my door and said, "You don't get free heat anymore." My kid stood behind me, cold hands on my jacket. A minute later, she leaned close and whispered, "I'll have you arrested." I looked at her, phone screen, and saw who she was calling back. Not dispatch, a direct number. She smiled. "I know people," she said. I nodded slowly, calm as ever, because the name on that contact list wasn't who she thought it was. She thought she was taking my heat. She didn't know she was turning up the fire. The patrol car showed up fast, lights cutting through the dusk. Karen crossed her arms like she had already won. She pointed at me and said, "That man is cutting HOA utilities. Arrest him." The officer looked at the valve, then at me. I handed him a folded paper. Not arguing, not rushing. Karen rolled her eyes. "Fake paperwork," she said. "He does this all the time." The officer opened it anyway and paused. His face changed just a bit. Karen noticed and stepped closer. "You don't need to read that," she snapped. "I'm on the board." The officer asked her to step back. That made her louder. "This house is under HOA control," she said. "Lock it if you have to." The officer looked at the paper again, then at the gas line map in his car. He keyed his radio and said one sentence that made Karen stiff. "I need a supervisor out here now." That's when she realized this wasn't going the way she planned. Karen started pacing, phone in her hand, whisper shouting to someone like she was fixing things behind the scenes. "Just get here," she hissed. "He's lying to the cops." The officer stayed calm, standing between us now. A second car pulled up, then a third. Neighbors came out, pretending to check mail, but all eyes were on us. Karen suddenly smiled and said, "Good. More witnesses." She pointed at the gas meter. "He refused free HOA gas." "That's a violation." I didn't answer. I just watched. The supervisor stepped out of his car and looked straight at me. "Sir," he said, "are you the one who filed that report last year?" Karen laughed. "What report?" The supervisor didn't look at her. "About stolen utilities and forged HOA orders." Karen's smile froze. I slowly took my phone out and unlocked it. "I brought the videos this time," I said quietly. The screen lit up, and Karen whispered, "That's not possible." The supervisor watched the video in silence. Karen leaned in, shaking her head fast. "That's edited," she said. "He's good with tech." The supervisor paused it and looked at the badge on her jacket. "You're not listed as HOA utilities," he said. Karen snapped back. "I run things here." One of the other officers cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we already warned you about that." Karen turned red and pointed at me. "He threatened my son. He said he'd cut the gas." That was the moment my kid opened the front door behind me, holding his homework. "Dad," he said, "the heater went off again." The officer's face changed. "You shut off gas to a home with a child?" Karen stuttered. "It's an HOA safety test." I didn't raise my voice. I just handed over a folded paper. The supervisor read it once, then again. "This address isn't under HOA control," he said. Karen laughed loud and fake. "Everyone here is?" The supervisor shook his head. "Not when the land was pulled out in 1989. Karen's phone buzzed. She looked at it, then at me and whispered, "Who are you?" I didn't answer her. I just looked at the supervisor as his radio cracked. "Sir, the department head is on line 1, the voice said. Karen's smile froze. "That's my contact," she said fast. The supervisor turned away and listened. His face stayed calm, but his eyes shifted to me. He asked one question into the radio. "You said this meter is city-owned?" A pause, then, "Under whose authority?" Another pause. He nodded once and ended the call. Karen stepped closer, trying to laugh. "This is getting silly." The supervisor turned back. "Ma'am, the gas line you ordered shut off. Belongs to the city. This man maintains it under contract." Karen's mouth opened, then closed. That's not possible. I finally spoke quiet. I don't give free gas, I said. I keep hospitals warm. One officer let out a low whistle. Karen snapped, "He's lying. Arrest him." The supervisor raised a hand. "No," he pointed at her. "You just interfered with a public utility and filed a false report." Her voice dropped. "You can't do this to me," he replied, steady. "You already did it to yourself." Her phone buzzed again, and this time she didn't answer. She backed up like the ground moved under her. "This is harassment," she said, pointing at me, then at the officers. "I run this HOA." The supervisor didn't even look impressed. He asked me one thing. "Did she touch the meter?" I nodded. "She cut the seal and tried to reroute it." "I told her to stop." Karen jumped in fast. "Because he refused to help the community. He owes us." One officer walked to the meter and crouched. He pulled out his phone and took pictures. The red seal was broken, fresh, clean cut. He stood up and looked at Karen. "That's a felony." Her face went white. "No, that was already like that," she tried to say, but her voice cracked. The supervisor held up a hand and stopped her. He turned to me again. "Who are you?" I reached into my wallet, slow, calm. I didn't look at her. I handed him a plain badge card. He read it once, then again. His tone changed. "You're the regional operations lead?" I said. "For the last 8 years. Karen laughed, sharp and nervous. "He's lying. He's just some guy with a tank." The supervisor looked at her and said quietly, "Ma'am, he signs my budget." One of the officers stepped back like he needed space. Karen shook her head fast. No, he refused free gas for the neighborhood. That's all this is." I finally spoke. "I refused illegal gas." The supervisor turned to the officers. "Secure the area and call internal." Karen's phone buzzed in her hand. "Show a group chat. Messages piling up." She looked at the screen and whispered, "Why are they asking about audits?" Karen tried to smile like this was all a joke, but her hands were shaking now. The supervisor didn't raise his voice. That was worse. He asked her to step aside. She refused. So an officer gently guided her back. Neighbors had come out by then. "Phones up, whispers everywhere." The supervisor explained, clear and slow, that the HOA had tapped into a protected gas line. Not shared, not allowed. Federal-level problem. Karen kept saying, "I was helping the community." I said, "You were stealing and threatening families to hide it." That line spread through the crowd fast. Internal affairs arrived before the sun went down. Paperwork came out. Real paperwork. Karen's name was on every page. Fake notices, false police calls, unauthorized access. The officer read her rights while she kept asking, "Can we talk about this later?" No one answered. When they walked her to the car, the same neighbors she bossed around didn't look away. One even said, "You told us he was the bad guy." I didn't say a word. I just held my kid closer. A week later, the HOA board dissolved. Emergency meeting. New rules. New people. Every notice Karen ever posted was removed. The gas line was shut down and fixed the right way. I got an apology letter from the city, signed by 3 departments. My driveway stayed open. My meter stayed locked. My home stayed mine. On a quiet evening, the supervisor stopped by again. No uniform this time. Just a handshake. He said, "Most people don't know their rights." I said, "Most bullies count on that." He smiled and left. The viral line people kept sharing was simple. She tried to take what wasn't hers and called the cops on the man who owned the system. Justice didn't yell. It just showed up and stayed.